David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. I have said this many times, but one of my favorite things about this hobby are the new discoveries, and it is one of those new discoveries I'm looking forward to sharing with you today. I have two pens to show you from a company by the name of Gravitas. What I'm going to do is go over the parts and features of these pens. They're actually the same design, but just with different finishes and made from different materials. I'll talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about them. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Gravitas for providing these interesting pens for review. Gravitas is a company based out of Dublin, Ireland, and was founded by a gentleman by the name of Ben Walsh. Ben has a background in furniture design and cabinet making. He started the business by making pens out of concrete. The business was growing in those initial designs, but Ben wanted to branch out and create a pen from high-end materials that could last a lifetime, which led him to develop the pens that I'll be showing you now. They arrive in these very cool tubes. On the front of these tubes right here, it might look like a bunch of lines and hash marks, but it is actually an ancient Celtic language called Ogham or Ogham, depending on whose pronunciation you follow. You actually read it from bottom to top, and it actually translates to say Gravitas pens. And then on the back of this larger tube is a longer piece of Ogham text, which has an Irish saying that states, "May your blessings outnumber the shamrocks that grow, and may trouble avoid you wherever you go." To begin with, we have this model here, which is simply called the Gravitas Silver. And then in this more colorful tube, we have something, let me get it out here, called the Gravitas Skittles. Now, I'm assuming that it's called Skittles because it's very colorful, like a bag full of Skittles candy, but the company doesn't implicitly state that, so the trademark police don't necessarily come calling, I guess. I guess they could say that this is named after the little bowling game that shares the same name. I mentioned it up top, but these pens are identical in design but differ in the material. The silver is made from a sturdy aluminum and has a nice matte finish, and the Skittles is made from stainless steel and is coated with a titanium nitride rainbow PVD treatment. I'll give you a closer look at the silver during the writing sample, but let's go ahead and focus on the more colorful of the two. As I mentioned, this is the Gravitas Skittles. Gravitas has a few different meanings, but it can be associated with something that commands your attention. And that's something that Ben would like to do with this pen. He wants to create pens that will catch your attention and earn your respect. The pen is cigar-shaped, and as I mentioned previously, coated with a colorful titanium nitride PVD treatment. There are two different versions of this pen, one with a more polished finish, and this one here is described as brushed, and the surface isn't quite as shiny. Of the two, I personally prefer this brushed look. Let's start by taking a look at the cap. On the end is something interesting. While doing some drop testing during the development of the design, Ben found that the pen could potentially dent if it would land on the point. So to protect the ends of the pen, he decided to create an insert from a tougher material. At first, he incorporated a piece of pointed tungsten, but the rather sharp tip turned the pen into something more akin to a weapon. So he opted for an alternative, which are these silicone nitride balls. And I think it's an interesting look. Ben has said in the future you might see other types of materials on the ends, maybe something to add a pop of color. The cap tapers up and then straightens out. This is a clipless design, and there are no roll stops. At the end of the cap, there is the Gravitas logo. Ben's last name is Walsh, and this logo is an element from the traditional Walsh family coat of arms. One of the elements of the crest is called a fion, or a broad arrow. It symbolizes the family's readiness for battle. You can see at the top of the crest here, there's a swan which has an arrow through it. In heraldry, a swan, or any bird really, is a symbol of vigilance and courage. I'm not quite sure of the significance of it being impaled by an arrow, though. Ben had thought about using that bird aspect in the coat of arms in a logo, but thought it might look a little bit too much like pelicans. The transition between the cap and barrel is fairly smooth. The barrel continues straight until about this point where it tapers down, and on the end of the barrel is another silicone nitride tip matching the cap. The cap twists off with about 1 1/4 turns, and underneath we have this number 6 Jowo stainless steel nib. It'd be nice to get the company logo engraved on the nib, but I do think that I like the nib doesn't have any colored treatment on it. I think the silver color makes for a nice contrast as opposed to having a rainbow nib on a rainbow pen. While that might work for some other pens, in the case of this one, I think it just would have been a little bit too much rainbow. The nib is available in extra fine, fine, medium, 1.1, and 1.5 stubs. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with a very slight flare. It rises only a bit, about 1 millimeter from beginning to end. Then we have the metal threads and a rather large angle up to the remainder of the barrel. The section is a little bit long. It's long enough to accommodate a variety of grip styles. I find the threads are a little sharp but with this steep incline right behind them, your grip really never fully rests on them. Coming in at a total of 74 grams, it is a rather heavy pen. The weight without the cap drops down to 49 grams, which is still rather significant. However, the balance point is pretty much right in the center of the pen, so it feels very well balanced in the hand. It doesn't feel front or back weighted. Personally, I like pens with a little bit of weight to them, and while this one does have a bit of heft, I find it to be very usable even for longer writing sessions. The silver model here is substantially lighter, coming in at 39 grams in total and just 28 grams uncapped. I was using this pen the other night to write a number of letters and had no issues at all with fatigue. Speaking of letters, if you would care to write one, it's a good excuse to use your fountain pens. My P.O. Box address can be found in the information below each video. I have always committed that if you write me, I promise to write you back, as long as you include a return address. I've had some folks not include a return address, so if you ever wrote and didn't receive a letter back, that's probably why. But I enjoy hearing from viewers and learning how you are enjoying the fountain pen hobby. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges, and a converter is provided. With all of the metal in both of these pens, eyedropping would not be recommended. These pens, the Skittles as well as the silver, are only available through the Gravitas website. I will put a link to it in the notes below. The silver model retails for £70, which is right around $95, and the Skittles retails for £75, or about $105. I feel both of these pens are very reasonably priced for what they bring to the table. I like the design. They both feel great in the hand. And I really do like this rainbow treatment. I also like that it's coming from a smaller company and that not a ton of people know about yet. And I say yet because if Gravitas continues to produce pens like this, then I could see them becoming rather popular. They also have a number of metal pens with unique and interesting engraved designs on their website. And Ben has said that he's also working on a production cement model as well. I would highly encourage you to check out the site and to see everything that he has available. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. So here we go with some size comparisons for the Gravitas Skittles and then the silver model. You can see they're virtually identical. It's just the materials and the finish. And in comparison, I wanted to show a bunch of other metal pens. Here it is with a tactile turn gist. And here it is with a Kara's Pen Company ink. And then here it is with a Lamy 2000 in stainless steel. And then in regard to 3 other metal pens, here it is with a Lamy All-Star. And this is a pen I recently reviewed that I really like, which is the Matthew Martin. This is the OG Chonk. And then finally, I have a pen that I'm going to be reviewing in the next couple of weeks that I'm really excited about just because I think it's really cool. And it's from Wancher, and it is called the Primo. And you can see here that it has a really interesting texture on the body. It almost looks like a world map, but it's a real nice kind of matte and then shiny texture that I'm looking forward to showing you in more detail. And that's what it looks like in comparison to the Gravitas pens. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the Keras ink. And here it is with the Lamy 2000. And here it is with the Lamy All-Star. Here we go with a writing sample for the Gravitas Skittles. This is a medium stainless steel nib. And since this pen was manufactured in Ireland, I only thought it appropriate enough to use Mont Blanc, Irish Green, and then for the silver model, I went ahead and am using the Papier Plume, Irish Channel Green, which I recently reviewed. This is what the Mont Blanc Irish Green looks like. It's one of my favorite greens. I get a lot of use out of it. This is what the Papier Plume Irish Channel Green looks like. And then here's another one of my favorite greens, which is from Fountain Pen Revolution, which is the green with envy. This is what the Mont Blanc bottles look like. They're larger bottles. This is called the shoe because it resembles a shoe. Okay, here we go with the rest of the writing sample. This is a very nice nib. Now it is just a Jowo number 6 nib, but I find it to be nicely tuned. You're not going to get a ton of line variation out of here, but I do find the ink flow on here to be decent. In regard to reverse writing, it is a little sharp, but it gets the job done. And in regard to some fast writing, there's no issues with the feed keeping up. So here are the two models from Gravitas. We have the Skittles as well as the silver. I'd strongly encourage you to check out the website for Gravitas to take a look at this and the other offerings. I think they look nice, they perform very well, and then on top of that, they're reasonably priced. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.